Welcome to ICSE Decoded. Today, we are decoding Robert Frost's poem A Considerable Speck, line by line, with themes, symbols, and inner meaning explained. Let's talk about Robert Frost, one of the most widely read poets in English literature. What makes Frost special is that his poems feel simple at first, almost like everyday conversations, but when you think deeper, they raise serious philosophical questions. Robert Frost was born in 1874 in San Francisco, but most of his life was spent in New England. That's why we often see villages, farms, woods, snow, and rural settings in his poems. These are not just backgrounds, they help Frost talk about human life and behavior. Despite not completing his education at Harvard University, Frost became one of the most respected literary figures in America. He won the Pulitzer Prize for Poetry 4 times, an achievement unmatched by any other poet. Robert Frost's poetic style is marked by simplicity and clarity. He frequently uses blank verse, allowing his poems to sound like natural speech. Frost described his technique as the sound of sense, meaning poetry that reflects everyday conversation while maintaining rhythm and depth. So, in simple words, Robert Frost is a poet who teaches us that even the most ordinary moments can carry deep meaning, if we pause and think. In A Considerable Speck, Robert Frost turns a simple observation into a deep moral question, challenging our assumptions about size, intelligence, and human superiority. Let's start with the first stanza. The speaker notices a tiny speck that would normally escape his attention. It becomes visible only because it appears on a bright white sheet of paper. This tells us something important: human attention is selective. The tone here is calm and observational. The theme introduced is how humans decide what is important and what can be ignored. Frost uses imagery and contrast, the dark speck against the white paper, to show how visibility creates importance. In the second stanza, the speaker casually raises his pen to crush the speck. But he suddenly pauses. Something about the speck's movement feels different. The tone shifts from casual to thoughtful. The theme here is power and responsibility. The moment we recognize life, we hesitate to destroy it. Frost uses personification and irony, turning an ordinary pen into a symbol of life and death power. Now the speck reacts. It pauses, runs, avoids the wet ink, and seems almost disgusted by it. These reactions make it clear that this is not dust, it is alive. The tone becomes fascinated and impressed. The theme is intelligence beyond humans. Frost relies heavily on personification and vivid imagery, making the speck behave like a thinking being. This stanza marks a turning point. The speaker openly admits that he is dealing with intelligence. Despite its tiny size, the speck clearly shows a strong desire to live. The tone is respectful and reflective. The theme challenges human superiority. Intelligence does not depend on size. Frost uses irony to show how something considerable can exist in something microscopic. Here, the poem becomes emotionally intense. The speck runs in terror, hesitates, and finally crouches helplessly, accepting its fate. The tone is tense and morally serious. The theme focuses on power and helplessness. Through imagery and symbolism, Frost presents the white sheet as a world where the human controls fate. In this stanza, the speaker reflects on modern ideas of exaggerated compassion. He rejects showy sympathy and instead chooses a quiet act of mercy. He spares the speck. The tone is honest and restrained. The theme contrasts true compassion with artificial morality. Frost uses satire and contrast to criticize performative kindness. The poem ends on a philosophical note. The speaker says he recognizes intelligence wherever he finds it, in any form. Even the smallest display of mind fills him with joy. The tone is calm and thoughtful. The theme is anthropocentrism. Humans value life that reflects their own intelligence. Frost uses repetition of the word mind to strongly underline his message. So in the end, A Considerable Speck reminds us that intelligence, not size, forces us to question our power and our humanity. If you found this explanatory video on A Considerable Speck helpful, do subscribe to the channel for more clear and detailed literature explanations. And I'd love to hear your thoughts. What do you think Frost is really saying about intelligence and human pride? Share your views in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.